Hello and welcome to the first podcast for Graphs Concept. I'm Adam.
I'm Jeff, and interesting stuff. We trying something new for the website. We just went to see Jason Bourne. Wanted to do a quick review. What'd you think of it, Adam?
Well, it's the fifth movie, but it's the fourth that involves Matt Damon as Jason Bourne.
Let's just call it the fourth movie and be done with it. No offense to Jeremy Renner.
The movie was good. As far as an action movie, I thought it held its ground. It's a decent enough spy movie. I felt my money was well spent. It's not going to win any awards, but I don't know how many Bourne movies actually won any awards.
That's a good question. But I enjoy Bourne movies. I like the idea of being in a world where there's this dude that just kind of kicks your ass,
Disappears.
and he's gone. You're not gonna find him. That's the 7-year-old in me wanting that to be like me. Like I could just walk into a spot, do whatever I want, and dip. And was he here? I don't know. I thought without the first half of this we're gonna do with no spoilers. We're gonna try to limit any talk of spoiler stuff, but I thought for the most part this kind of mirrored loosely, even though it's not like a rehash, it kind of mirrored the second movie in kind of the format. What do you think?
Yeah, to avoid spoilers, there's introduction of new characters, reintroduction of old characters. There's certainly a style of pacing that's similar for what it was. The movie in itself has a lot of notes that it has to hit at certain intervals in the movie, and it hit them in kind of the same respect as the Bourne Supremacy. So it's a good movie by standards of Bourne movies, but it's not reinventing the wheel, I guess.
Where would you rank it?
7.5, I'd say, out of 10. Like if we're doing a 10-point scale.
Okay, I can get behind that. There were parts of this movie that I thought, and we talked about this offline, but there were parts of this movie that I thought if you completely removed it, there were pieces that it wouldn't have affected the final outcome. I would have still had my Bourne movie. Some pieces were, I think, a little heavy-handed, but overall, I got the elements that I expected out of a Bourne movie.
Yeah.
You got your spy thriller, your guy who sort of remembers who he is, he's just coming into his own, that kind of thing. So I enjoyed it. I can agree with the 7.5.
Well, in this movie, he's got his memory back, right? Like, he's got the majority of what happened to him in his past. He's remembered it.
Yeah.
So
from what I gather, it looks like everything that happened to him in first person he remembers, and he's trying to uncover the stuff that was behind the scenes, the stuff he didn't see.
Okay.
So to speak. So yeah, for that, it was done pretty well. I thought the pacing was outstanding. There was no point where I was just like, let's sometimes these kinds of movies, especially like the spy genre overall, they get into these lulls where there's a lot of exposition and you're like,
I felt that there was a point at which, because in a movie, I can always tell pacing by when I'm sitting in the movie theater and I'm watching it, and at any point that I have to, if I like question like, I wonder how long this is running, then that's a problem. And I did this once in this movie.
Okay.
And it was towards the end, so I felt that it was running a little long for the amount of development that we had through the plot. Because in the beginning of the movie, I felt there were two stories going on. There was the one in D.C. that was happening with Tommy Lee Jones's character,
the director of the CIA, Robert Dewey, CIA Dewey. Director.
Yeah. So there was his plot that was going along with the fan fiction Google CEO, or whoever this guy was. What was his character's name?
His character's name in this movie was Aaron Hallour, and he was like,
It was called Deep Dream,
Yeah.
or whatever, but it's basically Google because they're setting up fiber optic networks, they're setting up this. People have accounts. There's applications that are on their phones that they're making, and all kinds of. It's an alliteration to Google,
Mm-hmm.
and then but in any case, back to what I was talking about. I felt like through 2/3 of the movie, there were two storylines going on. There was that one, and then what was happening with Bourne, and at the end of the second act or so, they leave London and then they transition to Las Vegas. At that point, there was a decent amount of exposition and lull in what was going on because we had all this hype that had happened, and I didn't, because of the way the action ended, I didn't feel there was any kind of like result from it. It was all kind of another thing that was put on pause until there's like, okay, well, we're gonna pause this and then we'll finish it up later. At that point, from that transition from between there and there, I was trying to get back into following it, and they were trying to merge the two storylines so that they made sense at the end there. So it was like, okay, I see where they're going with this, but Bourne didn't directly interact with that movie or with that side of the plot line until the very end, where he was kind of forced into it.
I agree, and that's what I was talking about. Where I felt that there was a part of the movie that you could kind of just, I could have done without it.
They're trying to make it. They're trying to modernize it and to make it appeal to something that's actually going on in the world now. Which usually I appreciate it, but it didn't seem to.
It didn't connect.
Fit.
I mean, I just wish there was more of a connection to the main plot. That's the only thing.
And that's what was missing.
Aside from that, you mentioned character development. I didn't think there was a ton. There were characters that were brought in, and it's kind of like the prototypical, this is the bad guy, this is the good guy kind of thing, or there really wasn't a lot of development. You didn't really know what the motivation was for some of the characters. But then again, that's okay because that's kind of been a theme. Like if you go through the Bourne movies, there's people that just want to cover stuff up, and then there's people that there's not really
you don't really need to know this.
You don't really have your sort of like tortured government agent that why are we doing this? Everybody's just doing their thing, and Bourne kind of disrupts that. So character development was not great, but that I can give it a pass for that.
Well, it's a spy movie, and you're trying to keep things secret, and you like the goals of an individual don't really change in a spy movie. Like a bad guy's got to do a bad guy thing, a good guy's got to do a good guy thing, and you're not gonna, there's not gonna be some grand reveal that's gonna change the heart of the bad guy, or like you don't really see the good guy make like a bad guy decision, So there's not a whole lot to do with the character development, and the new characters that are actually in this movie are pretty one-dimensional. They're gonna do what they're gonna do, and then the characters that aren't new to it, well, we've already established their actions and behaviors and developed their characters, so and they didn't really want to take them anywhere new. There was kind of a new thing because I guess, I don't really want to spoil anything until we get to the spoiler area, but when they're trying to talk to Bourne as opposed to kill him, like that kind of brought up a new like angle, which I think might be cool for another movie if they do a next one, but that it didn't pan out.
Let's do this. For anybody who's listening, past this point right now.
Well, let's hit our last point of entertainment value.
Okay.
We've decided this is entertaining, right? It's an entertaining movie as far as movies go.
I can co-sign
point.
that. I was entertained. Like you said at the beginning, I felt I got my $10 and change worth in the theater. I actually would go see it again.
Yeah, I could see it again. If like probably not on my own, probably not like in research for like Batman v Superman, like I saw a couple of times on my own just because I needed to validate my opinion of that movie, because I went in excited, I left unexcited, for lack of a better word, and then Like,
Shameless plug, you also have a great review of it on grassedconcept.com if anybody goes down to the site and reads it.
but anyway, like that was a movie that like I needed to watch a couple of times just on my own without outside influences. You know, like sit there and basically like I feel like I'm sitting in a corner being punished almost. but like I needed to understand my punishment and why Warner Brothers felt they needed to punish me with that movie.
Oh my god.
So, but another shameless plug just for the thing. It's the Ultimate Edition is decidedly better. Like it takes it up 2 or 3 grade points just with the added half hour. Like there's some stuff that's in there that it's like, oh here, look, giant chunk of plot. It's important that we put this in. And they're like, oh well, now we have to cut for time. Well, they'll figure it out and just cut, that 10 minutes out. And I'm like, no, we needed it. that was necessary.
That's actually making me want to. I haven't seen the Ultimate Edition. I know you saw it for the review, but that's actually making me want to go get it now.
Yeah, it's worth picking up.